Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the E3 podcast. I am excited to have today on Gertrude Mageza. She is an awesome real estate investor from Massachusetts. She's originally from South Africa. Super cool. She's a co-founder of Majestic Properties, which is a real estate company. And she's also the host of the Real Estate Investor Community in Boston. Go Investors. I'm running the one in San Antonio, so that's awesome. She's a graduate of Northeastern University with a strong sales and marketing background and has used her business insight to help grow a multi-million-dollar family real estate investment business that grew from 2 units to 70 units in a year. So I want to hear about that. That's amazing. Her passion is to see more women empowered and enter the real estate investor space so they can gain financial freedom and spend more time with their children. So thank you so much, Gertrude, for your time and coming on to the show.
Thank you, Melissa, for having me. I'm so excited about being able to talk about what we women can do in this real estate investment space.
For sure. So we'll just get right to the meat of everything. Yeah. How did you get started in real estate? Did you have a background in this, or was it something new for you? Or kind of tell us about that journey.
Well, it's probably not a very wow entry into it, but I used to watch a lot of HGTV. I used to watch a lot of it, and before taking the leap into real estate investment, I went to a lot of those real estate training seminars, the free ones, because, you kind of think that, oh, maybe I'll learn something there that will get me to do what they were doing. On HGTV, that's really where it started. You just keep on watching all these things, and you say to yourself, I really want that. You don't really learn anything, but I guess you get the inspiration from watching a lot of that.
Mm-hmm. And so did you find that was not quite the reality when you got actually into it?
I know, it really wasn't. Yeah, I eventually joined, when it came down to reality, I eventually joined the Boston Real Estate Investor Association, and that led to relatively meaningful encounters with real local investors. So I was able to learn. That's when I learned that there are so many ways of just like, watching those shows. There's flipping, there's buy and hold. There was so much jargon going on in those Real Estate Investor Association meetings, and my head was spinning, but I was determined I'm going to learn. And what I did start doing was, joining things like Bigger Pockets and just going to meetups, different meetups from the Real Estate Investor Association. And then I guess from that you start to, I paid for a mentor, and then the rest is kind of history.
That's awesome. I love that you went and got a mentor. That's something that I try to push to people, to find somebody. I feel like that's really the best and quickest way to learn something. I mean, there's a lot of places to get how to, like the nuts and bolts of how to do the things, but then to have somebody actually help you implement that, I think is just really powerful.
It is very powerful, but it is expensive. I mean, I was paying a monthly amount to this mentor, so I could only sort of afford to do it for about 6 months. But there were things that I learned because this particular mentor also had a mastermind every week on a Monday. So I went to that, and we would ask questions. But I do believe that you cannot do this 100% on your own and 100% for free. I think at some point you need to put some money into your education, just like anything else.
Absolutely.
And just being with that mentor, one of the biggest myths is that in real estate investing is that you have to be wealthy to invest in real estate. I just want to encourage someone out there that you can do it, because wealth is not really a prerequisite for our industry. But I do feel that education is. That is a prerequisite, and a very, very strong one, and a requirement. But real estate produces wealthy people, because being wealthy is a byproduct of real estate investing, but I don't believe it's a prerequisite to get into this field.
I agree. And I love what you said about education, because that is so critical. But, with education comes action, right? Like, all that education is worthless if you don't take action. Was there something that you learned, or what was kind of the tipping point for you that pushed you from educating to actually taking action? Was there something that you can recall that kind of just pushed you over the edge?
Yes, I the MLS. I'm also a licensed real estate agent, so I just hang my license. I don't practice as a real estate agent, so it gives me access to the MLS. So I was looking on the MLS the whole time, because that's the only source I knew where to find a deal. I didn't know anywhere else. I was going to these associations, these meetings and networking, but when you haven't had a deal, nobody's going to give you one or offer you one, and especially when you're a woman. But I did find this bank-owned property duplex on the MLS that had been there for over 100 days. And I looked at it, and it was in my price range, and it looked like something that I could do. So that was what made me pull the trigger at that point. And I went into that one with so much enthusiasm. I think that's the fastest rehab I've ever done. But that was what got me started. And then after that, you could actually talk about having done something. And after that, a wholesaler came with a deal from, and while you're talking about it, as you network, deals start coming. When I got really serious and after that first deal, I was crystal clear of what my niche would be. I said I would do duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, preferably 3 family plus, and my strategy would be BRRRR. That's the buy, rent, refinance, repeat, in case anybody wants to know. So every business should have a clear strategy to accomplish specific goals, and real estate is no different. So in terms of where, it was within a 50-mile radius from where I live, drivability. So that was what I went into. That was my elevator speak. And having done those first 2 deals, and deals started coming, I started being offered properties by people within my network, because your network is your net worth. So Absolutely. It was really my network.
So are you still big in networking even now?
Oh, yeah.
Component of your business?
Oh, yes, I'm still very big in networking. This strategy helped me acquire, I went to, as you say, 72 units. It was actually through networking, where a deceased estate. So the bulk of my properties are all in one street.
Oh, wow.
It was a deceased estate, most of it in one particular city. But it was like, oh, so you're a real estate team. I have a friend who the father passed away. They're not interested in carrying on their father's real estate investing. The properties were in such bad condition that they no financing, conventional financing, they couldn't sell them, each house. They had to sell them as a portfolio. Mm-hmm. And so that was like my big break. I leveraged a relationship. I leveraged part of that network.
Wow, that's a great. So, that's awesome. So you were kind of playing Monopoly, right? You own the whole street.
Yes.
I love
Yes.
that. How did you finance something like that? I'm curious. That's a big portfolio to pick
It
up
is
all
a
at
big
one time.
portfolio. You start with you start with the short-term financing. It's still the burst strategy. There's nothing different from that. You can't get conventional financing for that, those types of properties. I knew that it would be probably a 2-year project. It's just like probably buying a huge multifamily or apartment building where you have to sort of map out that for the next 2 years or so, you'll probably be doing, and they had tenants in, but some tenants were terrible and weren't paying the place. I mean, taken it's taken a few um, sweat and tears to
Yeah.
try and get it to where it is. But that's real estate investing, right? You go
Right.
in and it's called a value add. You add value as you lose some tenants. You go in there, you rehab the unit, and then you put in a good tenant and a better tenant. And that's basically what we did and what we're doing. So it wasn't something that would happen overnight. You go and get the type of financing it was. I got 2-year financing from it's like construction loan, interest only loan. It's like
Mhm.
hard money, but it was more private money, so it
Mhm.
was cheaper money. It was only at 6%,
Oh,
so that
wow.
was really good. Yeah, so you use that type of financing to get you to where you can use your burr, if you can burr. So and stable. Once you stabilize, obviously you refi out of that kind of a loan in order to have your long-term funding.
Mhm. Wow, that's awesome. That's a lot of growth really fast and a huge project. I can't even imagine taking that much on at one time, but I love how you broke it down. I mean, I think if you go into it with the right mindset and just knowing, like you said, like this is going to be a big project, this is going to take time, this isn't a quick knockout sort of thing, that once you know that, then it's a lot easier to digest probably, right?
Yes, it is. And bear in mind that I didn't have all these years and all this. It's really a mindset thing, I would say, because um, most of what we most of what is in our mind can be self-sabotaging, right?
Oh yeah.
And it can put so much fear in you that you don't even see an opportunity. But um, I trained my mind when I came into this thing to be more positive and to look at things from a more positive angle. And I think you need to do every single, I think that's one thing I know about real estate investor, whether you flip or whatever you do, you always go into this dilapidated situation and you see a beautiful, maybe a beautiful kitchen, a beautiful layout can come out of this. I think there's a great mindset that real estate investors have, and that's the mindset that I think one always has to maintain.
I agree. I agree. And I think a lot of us too, as investors and people that want to start their own business, you're a visionary person, that's, and so I think when you can really clearly see that vision, that keeps you fired up too, right? Like you said, you look at this property and we're not looking at it as, God, that's a pile of junk. It's like, this is a possibility. This is an opportunity. This is what it could be. And that's, I feel like, where our minds always go. And if we train ourselves to think that way and see those things, not just houses, but anything in life that's a challenge, you see it as an opportunity instead. It's a lot for your personal growth.
Yes, it certainly is. And Melissa, one thing I would like to say, even about the way I looked at this property, what these properties on this street, I thought about it. I said, even if I'm telling a new real estate investor, if you can buy property on the same street, just think about, how the construction workers will go. It's almost like a production line. When you're pulling permits, try and invest. If you can't invest in the same street, try and invest in the same city, because you develop relationships with the inspectors, and you know how important that is as a real estate investor yourself. The people at City Hall get to know you, and you cut travel time. You're not trying to travel from one city to the next. So you reduce cost, and you increase efficiency and productivity by trying to invest in one city. So, and even when you tenant those properties, since I'm more of a buy and hold investor, it's easier to walk the properties to, even for property management, it's so much easier when everything is in one city or one street. So that was sort of like an accidental way of it was an accident that I had these properties in this street. But also what came out of that was, now I know to tell people that, try and invest in one city because of those efficiencies.
Yeah, that's a great idea. You think more people should probably think about that. I actually had a deal like that once. It was an accident, but it was a happy accident, right? And it was, I think, we had bought a house, and the house next door appeared to be vacant. And so we started reaching out to them, and then we ended up buying that house. So we did 2 side by side, just like that, and renovated them. And another upside to doing that is you're raising the value yourself of that area. So it was great. I did one house, and that one went to market before the other one did, but it was awesome because it provided a really good comp. When we went to go resell it, we were slowly raising the value of that area by investing really heavily in that one neighborhood. And then having the 2 right next door to each other, like you said, was completely really efficient, and made it super easy for the contractor just to bounce back and forth between the 2 houses. And when I had to go check the jobs, I just had to go to one place and check. So that's an interesting strategy that I think should be noted for some people to try.
Yeah, it is. It really is, because sometimes it's not something that you think of straight off the bat, but like you said, it was accidental. For me, it was accidental too. But even when I try and find properties, I try and always look in that same city.
Yeah.
Because of what what you've built there.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Mm.
So from all of that, what were some challenges that you faced being a female in the real estate space or in the business space, period?
As a woman investor, you can often be overlooked when you're networking in networking settings. Groups of real estate investors primarily it's a very male dominated field, and groups of mainly men may not initially recognize the value of a woman, that you are a professional in your own right. You do understand the industry, you understand everything, but your success will usually remove this type of what I call prejudice. That I've had some very, very interesting encounters where, I was refining out of a property, and I went to a local credit union to try and do that. I did it. Most of the time you can do these things online. You don't really have to go into a place when you're refining. But for some reason, that bank employee or really the mortgage broker really wanted to meet me. So I went along, and I do, I was surprised at being asked, but I went in there with a positive mindset. But I did go in with with my adult son, who I do some of this work with. And the whole time, Melissa, he wasn't looking at me. He was looking
Looking at
And he
yourself.
wouldn't, the questions and everything he was going through, he kind of was not really understanding that the person in on the paperwork is me. So, so those are some of the challenges we have, because especially when it being a male dominated field, you will find that sometimes they want to ask, oh, where's your husband? And and then you have to check them and remind them that this is my business, and I am here on behalf of myself, trying to get this done for my business. So those are some of the challenges, even working with some contractors sometimes. I'm sure you've encountered the same thing. They want to get one up on you, like they want to tell you that, oh no, you don't understand this. Yes, I don't understand everything, but as time goes, you gain this experience. And I still insist on being feminine, even in this male dominated field. I will not um, get any male characteristic just to be. I feel that as a woman, I should be able to be accepted, and that should authenticate me as a businesswoman, as a woman, not for me to give that part of me up.
I love that. I've never really thought about that, but you're right, because it's a temptation, when you're working with men to want to act like a man, and to give up that feminine side. And we don't have to do that. We can still completely be a woman and be in a man's business. But it is fun to shock them sometimes. Like, I'll never forget, there was one rehab that we were doing, and this roofer was giving me the runaround about the roof and stuff. And he said, well, we're almost done, and this and that. And I was kind of looking up there and I was thinking, this doesn't really look done. I'm not a roofer, but again, experience, I know enough. And I said, get the ladder. And he said, what? I said, get the ladder. And he said, are you climbing up there? I said, yep. And so I had my little boots on and stuff, and I climbed up the ladder and I walked around on the roof, and I said, what about that? What about that? And the flashing here, and what's wrong with this? And he just could not believe that I climbed up on that roof and, picked apart. I didn't pick it apart, but it's like, don't tell me something and then I go up there and it's not what you said. You're just disrespecting me. If you didn't do the job right, or you don't know you're not finished, just say so. You don't have to lie about it or make up stories about it or think I won't notice.
Yeah, definitely. Those are definitely things that we come across all the time. Mm-hmm. And we just have to keep plugging at it and authenticating ourselves. We're not going anywhere.
Yeah. In fact, I think the voice is getting a little bit stronger. We talked about that before the show. Just, women they're speaking up more, and they're talking more about what they're doing and sharing and putting themselves out there about the struggles and, the wins and the losses and kind of what we learn from it, and being willing. What I love about women is it seems a lot of us are really vested in lifting each other up.
Oh, yes. Yes, I think we're now creating that women's club. How they've always said the boys club, the men's club, whatever. I think as women, I truly believe we've created our own tribe on our own terms. And I'm a host of Real Estate Investor here in Boston, and I'm telling you, they are phenomenal women in this industry, and we are just supporting each other, and we are just each other's cheerleaders, and it's great to see. And we come from different parts of the industry, whether it's from the hard money, private money side to even the construction side. Mm-hmm. Women are getting into construction, so it's really, really exciting. And every time I meet a woman who's trying to get into this field, I encourage them, and I make sure that I tell them that if you're looking for a mentor, somebody to bounce something off, reach out, but I also let them know that they have to make sure that they network. We have to network with one another, because that, I always say, your network is your net worth. And as women, if we carry on doing this, we'll be the leaders in this industry. I believe we will, because we just tend to do things a little bit more differently with heart. We want to improve those neighborhoods. We want to do things that are beyond just the money. Because I just feel the motivation, if your motivation is just the money, I believe it will soon wear out. But if your motivation is bigger than that, I believe it will get somewhere, and it will get bigger than what you are and what you can do.
I agree. And there's so much power in that too. There's so much power in your network and the people that you're surrounding yourself with, and having, ears to bounce things off of, and
Oh, yes.
and share and support each other. And our investor group in San Antonio is the same thing. Like, those women are so awesome and so giving too. And I think women, and none of this is to say that this doesn't apply to men too, but I think we maybe talk about it more. I don't know. We're more emotional creatures, so we do approach things differently, and we are willing to be open and vulnerable and giving with each other to really, I don't know, like, I know one of my goals is to create a ripple effect, and it sounds like it's the same thing for you. And the more women like us that are going out there and really helping other people, and you get all that back too, it's that transfer of energy, back and forth, and it's all positive. And that group of women has just been so amazing. So much power in your network.
It's been so amazing. When this pandemic started and everybody was nervous and really afraid of what the future might hold, it was so nice to be able to have a summit where women encouraged each other, where we actually said, we can do this. And, it just made me feel that there are synergies. Suddenly, we knew that there are synergies in any business. You can grow your portfolio beyond real estate, and that was really exciting for me. I came out of that summit feeling, oh my goodness me, I didn't even think of this, because you're so busy just having that tunnel vision, thinking to yourself, oh, woe is me, what's going to happen? Is this going to be a 2008 kind of thing? But no, there was so much positive energy going on, and I'm so excited. I came out of that excited, and I remember telling Liz, I got my mojo back.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's funny how that, even just, when you're going through those tough times like that, like you said, like the pandemic, and everyone's panicking and fearful. And then when that you've got people that, we're not going to worry about the worst that can happen. We're going to focus on what's the positive outcome of this, or what can we do to change our mindset so that we're not going down, I call it, the dark hole, where you just kind of like head in the sand and you don't want to think about it, and all it's gloom and doom and everything. And
yeah,
you need that positivity.
Oh, yeah.
Enforcement all the time, I think, especially right now.
Oh, yes. And Melissa, real estate is a journey. Real estate investing is a journey. And no matter what, with any journey, things come in the way that might be a bit of a challenge, but you just keep putting that one foot in front of the other. And if you have that positive mindset set, that's like the power, the superpower that will keep you going.
Absolutely.
It really is.
So do you have anything that you do to kind of keep you in that positive frame of mind? How do you suggest that people implement that in their own lives?
I think it really has to start with who you surround yourself with. It really does. If you surround yourself with people that are always negative and, always tell you about what the worst stuff that could happen, that starts to grow in you. That starts to be something, it's like they're planting these seeds in your head that start to germinate. And so you really need to surround yourself with the right people. And when you surround yourself with the right people, people who are positive, even if you go to them with a problem, even if you have an issue, if you have surrounded yourself with people who you can go to with an issue that looks hopeless, positive people will always look for the silver lining and for a solution for you to come out of that. Okay, yeah, so this has happened, but it's a character building moment. Do this. Maybe look at it this way. Maybe look at it that way. I have a lot of those people in my circle, and that has been so helpful, because you just, as women, sometimes, you might have to know that maybe I don't, instead of me this is a really good friend, and these are all my good friends, but maybe with me spending 50% of my time with this friend, you start to actually analyze your friends and say, maybe I can only spend 5% of my time with this one because they're not so positive, but I still value their friendship because, we've had that friendship for a long time. But maybe this friend I can spend more time with, maybe 30% of my time, because I get so much positive vibes when I spend time with this. So you actually have to analyze and allocate percentages, so to speak, to all your friendships in terms of value, in all your networks in terms of value. And I believe that circle is really, really helpful. And each friendship will have different value for different areas of your life. But that's something that you need to do, because if you don't have that, you don't have a well to draw from, so to speak.
Right. Yeah. And you want to surround yourself with people who are at your level or even higher, so that you've got something to aspire to.
Yes.
I know I've got people in my life. It's like, man, I want to be more like her, and then I spend more time with that person, and, I feel myself being more positive and everything too. And I love that you said that, because there's a danger of being too comfortable with your circle sometimes, and you don't take the time to kind of audit who you're spending your time with.
Yes.
We're checking all these other areas of our life, but not always, even auditing our friendships and who we're hanging around with and how they're influencing us.
Yes.
And, I talk about that with my daughters a lot. I had a conversation with my 12-year-old daughter recently, and it was about that very thing, about the friend group. And there was a friend that, she's not, just kind of starting to go down a different path that I can see is not, there's going to be some issues, down the road, just because of some behaviors and things that she's saying and stuff. And my daughter actually came to me and talked to me about it, and I thought it was great. And I kind of said the same thing, but I think you said it a lot better than I probably did. But just you can still be her friend, but you don't have to spend as much time with her, and if she's doing something that makes you uncomfortable, then you need to tell her, I'm not comfortable with that behavior. And it's the same thing as adults with those people we're with. If you have to tell them, I don't agree with what you're saying with that, because this is my perspective, and you're never going to change anybody's mind, but to let them know that's not kind of what I believe, and start cutting back the time that you're spending with a person that's influencing you in a negative way.
Yeah.
So that's good advice. Gold. Well, I have one more question for you, and then we'll let people know how they can find you. But I'm curious to know, what one piece of advice could you give a female who is just getting started with her business? What is one thing that, if you could go back and tell yourself at the beginning that you could share?
I would say to a person that's starting out that you can do it. I always believe anybody can do it. I would say you can do it. Just make sure you educate yourself. Make sure you find your niche. What niche do you want? Do you want to do duplex, triplex, single family? Once you've identified your niche, what strategy are you going to use to get to that? Are you going to use, like I do, my primary strategy is the burst strategy, and I would make sure once you've identified that, then it's a journey. Put one foot in front of the other and make sure that you get it done. Your mindset, don't let your mind sabotage you. I always say that.
Yes.
Our experiences, even if you fail, that's learning.
That's right.
When something doesn't, my very, very first flip, I call it the first property I told you about. I had finished doing it. It was ready for me to put a tenant in it. Guess what? I suddenly found out that there was no gas
Oh,
to the building because after some time they cut the gas line. But guess what? You find a solution. So you're going to use electric. You get the gas company. It's going to take a while to get it done, but don't let that devastate. Learn from that. So I made sure from then on I wouldn't miss that sort of thing. So every failure, quote unquote failure, is learning. Every mistake is a lesson. Every test is a testimony. So, I would tell that person that, go for it.
absolutely.
Go for it. Put one foot in front of the other and start that journey. Start it. There's no good time to start in real estate investing. There's no bad time to start. There is just the time to start.
That's right. Take the action.
The action, yes.
Awesome.
Don't get stuck in analysis paralysis, because
Yep.
that's a very easy thing to get into. You just keep analyzing and analyzing and analyzing, and you're never doing anything. A year or two later, you're still wishing to be an investor, and you're not.
Yep. And I hear that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much, Gertrude. This was awesome. You provided so much good information and just great positive vibes, I feel. Now I feel like I want to go out and do something. So can you share real quick how people can get in touch with you?
So people can get in touch with me. I have a website, majesticproperties.com. They can get in touch with me through there. That's the way you can get hold of me. And Instagram, go_Gertrude. That's a great way. I love Instagram. I use it, to find people, to get to know people. And go_Gertrude is who I am on Instagram. So you can find me there too and follow me on there.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And those will be shared too in the show notes. So I really appreciate your time this morning. And thank you so much again for everything that you're doing to help women in this industry.
Thank you, Melissa, for having me. It was fun. It really was. Great. Talking to you and being on this podcast.
Awesome. Well, thanks again.